today.
Your papers, please.
It's an excursion into the odd and into the very, very different.
This is insane.
After he's stalked, we must get rid of him immediately.
Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale.
Good morning.
Quality, quantity, and variety.
ROCKFLUX.
Let's get this show on the road. The only station that matters.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for being here on this Friday, Hawaiian Friday. And I've got a legitimate for Hawaiian Hilo Hattie shirt that I purchased many a year ago. This is the title card or thumbnail that would have brought you here. My chair is still a little bit, well, a lot bit out of it. It's 5:34 a.m. Eastern Time on Friday the 18th of February. And yeah, I am behind my times. The thing is, I got about not a full bucket, but close to a bucket of water out of the various collection containers in the attic from the leaky roof before I came down today. It wasn't that bad, but for some reason there's still a leak above my bedroom, and at some point in the middle of the night there was a drip, 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 drip. And a clonism wasn't enough. I had to put in 2 of those foam ear plugs shoved deeply in my ears that eventually took out that sound, the torture, water torture. And I got to sleep until about midnight, because I think I woke up first at 9:30 to that sound. It's crazy here. We're up here in the mid-Atlantic states, more or less, Appalachian area. Now, was supposed to be snowing right now, but it's not. However, it is about 2 degrees below freezing Fahrenheit, or just under 0 Celsius. And the temperature is going to drop over the course of the day, or somewhere hover in that. I think the high of the day is what it is right now, but it's going to get lower before it gets back to where it is now. Overnight 25 degrees and then more snow. And that's pretty much like a course of swath of the mid-Atlantic states. The Northeast is experiencing ridiculously high winds right now. We're getting them, but I mean, we're talking hurricane, gale force type winds the further up in the Northeast you get. So it's a crazy day. It doesn't rain again until Tuesday, which means I need 72 hours for my sealants to dry. But I still don't know where that leak is, despite all my efforts to fix it. Sorry for moving around this chair, as regular viewers know. The title card may be a bit confusing to some. That's me, in case you can figure that out. That's just me in the morning without glasses. Probably what I look like most of the time. These are reading glasses I use because I got so many switches and, buttons. In fact, right now I have to deselect all of these various things. You got to do that every time you hit that one. But
Good morning.
yeah, good morning. And let's hope there's no more.
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
Yeah, that's what that was last night. Couldn't believe it. And so this morning when I went up and I saw no water, like a little bit of water in some of the collection containers. And again, if you don't know what's going on, you don't know. You got to go back. I mean, we're 400 videos into this leak issue. It's been covered over the past year. So the thing about it is, while there was no water in the collection containers, which were literally like touching each other and taped between them, like with that rubber waterproof type tape. But when I lifted up a couple of them, I had put down these little cheap carpety type of things, little as an added feature to absorb any leakage that could possibly get through somewhere, somehow. They were soaking wet. So the leak appears to be coming somehow. In other words, if this is the floor and above the floor is a container, and the wall is here and the wall is protected is where the leaks are coming through the wall, basically roof wall. The leak must be below the container, somewhere like in between top of container to floor. But I mean, intentionally had pulled everything out, looked at that floor, sealed around all those areas, and even put tape in any potential crack that could get through, and I was still getting drip, drip, drip. And the floor was damp. So it's getting down there somehow, and I have no idea. I have no bloody idea. Okay, that's the vlog section.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
I watched this video by Gigi Young, and if you don't know who she is, check out her channel. She has a channel, Gigi Young, and she is gigiyoung.com. She's some kind of clairvoyant or a very aware person, and she teaches these classes and talks about all these kinds of things that are very interesting and intriguing, and she seems to be very well-read, well-versed on people like Steiner and all sorts of steganography and different things. So in other words, she's like, she's been a guest on the Dark Journalist show. And if you're not familiar with the Dark Journalist, I recommend you check him out too. You can find him at darkjournalist.com, but you could also find a YouTube channel. If you want to get a primer for both of them, watch, I think they did a year or so ago or sometime within the past year, Dark Journalist had Gigi Young on as a guest. This show is not about them. I'm just giving you that as an introduction because what I want to talk about briefly here in the beginning, then we're going to move on to coming to grips with the end of the world. But part of what I'm dealing with me mentioning her is open your eyes, be consciously aware of the now. Okay? And when I say consciously aware, I mean consciousness, not bioelectric brain. Right? And the physical body. And I'm just going to give a quick review for people who might be new to this show or podcast and they don't understand what I've been speaking about and I spoke about in so many of my 365 consecutive videos last year and 40-some, perhaps 40 this year. And before that, and beyond. Remember, my videos go back to before there was a means of podcasting to when you had to listen to them on real audio on the internet. Probably when Gigi Young was just either a child or I'm not sure how old she is. But she would have to have probably been a young child, a very little girl, if she was even born. I was on the internet probably before Dark Journalist and Gigi Young were born. I was already on the internet. Because I don't know if they're 35 or not. And I've been on the internet for 35 years. You say, internet, 35 years? I thought it didn't start till the 90s or something, late 90s. No. So let's get back to this consciousness. So I just quick review. We know we have 5 senses. Some people feel we have 6 or 7 or 8. It depends on your sensitivity, your awareness, your capabilities. But generally speaking, a human being has 5 senses. You've got your eyes, sight, sound, smell, taste, and feel. Right? And that's a beautiful thing. That makes the earth the Garden of Eden, so to speak. Right? that makes, I've talked about on different shows, that would make it enticing, right, for someone to get on this ridiculously short ride of misery that it is for so many people. There's 8 billion people on the planet, and the majority of them are living in poverty and misery. Forget about the lives of quiet desperation that we have in Western culture. Western civilization is collapsed. That's why I'm wearing the game over hat today. You might say it's overkill with game over on the screen, but no, I can't stress it enough. It's game over. These are what we would call this is the end of the world. And people don't see it. From a scientific standpoint, it's right in your face. Some people, these people, that's why there's so much diversion about it, because there's confusion and inability of people to accept it. So they want, like everything else, the powers that be and the youngins who don't get it, they want to blame it on a thing like climate change. Remember, first it was global warming, but then when it started cooling in areas, or, then it was just, well, it's just climate change. That nor'easter is caused by climate change, or it's caused by 0.004 CO2, which gives the plants, what they need to breathe and produce food and to be green. I mean, when you fly around this planet, all you see are forests and water. Basically, it's not our planet. We just happen to be placed here on this little Garden of Eden. And this Garden of Eden needs 0.4004 CO2, which is just a trace gas. It's a nitrogen planet, by the way. That's what you want to look into. Who are the beings that need nitrogen to survive? Because the atmosphere is 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, and 0.9% argon. That's 99.9% of the atmosphere is nitrogen, oxygen, and argon. And the rest are trace gases. One of those trace gases is CO2, 0.004 CO2. Then there's water vapor, a little bit of methane, and a bunch of other stuff you probably aren't even aware of. So the question is, who's breathing in nitrogen? Yeah, that's the funny one. Nobody ever asked that question. Right in clear sight. It's a nitrogen planet. And it's that 0.004 CO2 that not only gives us the food we eat and the beauty that surrounds us, the plants, the trees, the flowers, right? The crops. But they in turn also give us the oxygen we breathe and sustain life. So we are totally sustained by the 0.004 CO2. So one could go to the natural conclusion of that and saying CO2 is necessary for human life, even though it's a trace gas on the planet. So we're here on this planet that only has a trace gas that's almost key for our existence. It's interesting. So I agree with people like Gigi Young and some of these people, and the people that talk about the Atlanteans and things of that nature. If you read the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, whatever you think of those things, and whatever you think of Thoth and Thrice Great and all of that stuff, the point of the matter is these documents exist. These stories have been passed down through the ages by the sages. Okay? But let's get back to our senses. So you're here. For some reason, you're here. You were placed here. You chose to come here. You were reincarnated here. You are trapped here. This is a prison planet. Or is this a ride that you decided to say, hey, I want to go on that Earth thing and do that ride? And because you exist outside of linear time, all right, your entire 100 years in Earth time, if you listen to my song 2 hours, 100 years in Earth time is only 2 hours in our real time, in our consciousness time. So I would advise Gigi Young to listen to my song 2 hours. You can listen to it free on YouTube and see what I'm saying there. And if you've never heard this before, consider that. But the idea is, maybe this is a ride. Maybe you chose to come here. because you wanted to experience those five senses, right? Because as a conscious being, right, pure consciousness, part of the one, right, God, if you will, right, that as that as awe-inspiring and just unknowable from our standpoint now, that state is of our consciousness at that level, right? Like, of course, how could, oh, infinity, of course, right? But you don't feel anything if you don't have skin. You're not making love without a body. You're not smelling a bouquet of flowers without a nose. You're not tasting your favorite food or hearing your favorite song or watching a beautiful sunset, landscape, person, thing, whatever. Our consciousness is implanted in these bodies and utilizes these senses. And we have that full sensory experience. But we know that, like, see, the thing about, you have to understand, the one thing about science and spiritual concepts is that they converge and agree on certain things. If you look in this picture over here, trying to, what you can't really see because it's behind me, but if you look next to the phone, there's a red thing. It's a book, and it says Codex. And that's the book about the hard problem of consciousness. Next to that, by the way, is one of my CDs. But the thing is, even scientists who are atheists and don't believe in spirituality and think this is all woo-woo, what I'm talking about, will agree that they can't comprehend the mind, the you in the first person consciousness and where that comes from, how that's created by a bioelectric brain. I mean, some people have theories, but they're not even theories. Actually, they don't have theories. They might approach hypotheses. They have ideas. So even scientists agree with that. That's something we have. That is a consensus that we all have. Okay, so consciousness is you. You are your consciousness. Some people call that the soul. And, so your soul, your consciousness. How about soul consciousness? Right? Some people call it their spirit. Spiritualism. Right? So soul, conscious, spirit. But whatever you want to call it, or the mind. See, some scientists refer to it as the mind. So you might say mind, well, then that sounds like you're not saying it's separate. No, we're talking about a bioelectric brain here in this dark cranium and the mind. See? Your mind is out here. Your consciousness is your mind. You in the first person, who you think you are. And so beyond this corporeal body, this android of sorts in this, with this bioelectric brain, is consciousness, is the cosmos, is all there is also the unknowable. We can't pretend to know something like that. We don't know, right? Nobody knows. People have near-death experiences, and they say, They went towards the light. They saw their relatives. And then other people will tell you, don't go near the light. It's a soul trap. The Gnostics, the Archons, the Demiurge. Right? How about that 8th sphere place? What's that all about? Yeah. Yeah. Right? We don't want to deal with that, do we? No. So, that's all, that's the unknowable. And even those who have claimed to have passed over and come back, right? They don't know. They had a glimpse of something. Some endorphins were released in their brain and they felt good in their life. This was a life-changing, altering experience. That's happened to me. One morning, just waking up, I had a life-changing experience. I actually mean that. But the thing about it is, you can't tie the physical into the metaphysical. And this is for you, Gigi. In your recent video, it seemed as if you were saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seemed as if you were saying that through these various chakras and all of that stuff, I don't go for that, first of all, because I think we are our consciousness. We are our soul. Okay. I mean, and this iconography of these various forms and stuff like that, those were ways of passing down ancient knowledge. I've studied, in the mystery schools. So I'm aware of those concepts, but those concepts never may make it out that this physical temporary body that could be, pardon me for saying this, cut in half in a car crash and then ultimately just gone to a crematorium and turned to ashes and scattered in the ocean is going to go through some stargate on some distant planet. And what about the 88-year-old person? As opposed to someone who's in the prime of their life, and the body has the body and the faculties and the health that they would like to have if they were to have an eternal life. So you have to address those issues when you start talking about this kind of thing, because people don't listen. They hear what they want to hear, and so it could be misleading. And so people want to believe. It's like you can't see it behind me, but before the show's over, I believe the sun will rise, and behind me a poster will come into view that will be the poster that was in Mulder's office in The X-Files, where it says, "I want to believe." And that's what people do. They want to believe. So it's important that people realize that consciousness is consciousness and physicalness is physicalness. In fact, maybe there would be a much better world if we realized how short this lifespan really is, how fragile we really are. And instead of warring with each other, arguing with each other, fighting each other, clawing our way to the top of the corporate ladder while we step on other human beings, maybe we would experience the full senses that this corporeal life gives us. Consciousness is eternal and is always going to be there. Your soul's eternal. You have that. But what you don't have is whatever reason you're here now. And if you're one of these incarnation believers, which is, to me, is about as frightening as, the demiurge or even what's his face? That guy in the eighth sphere. Araman, right? Because the idea that you're going to like wake up and be born in some weird village somewhere in poverty on the streets and suffer your entire life. Or believe like, or what? Be reincarnated as a cow. And you're worried about watching politics on TV? I mean, or this Canadian thing. Like, look at that nonsense that's going on. What's the matter with these people? Don't they understand? People just won't come to grips with the end of the world. This is the end of the frickin' world, man. Okay? The 12,000-year cycle is upon us, and the sun is going to, push out its outer shell. We had a taste of it last week just because we have a weakened magnetic field when those satellites went down. Well, imagine that times, 10,000. Coffee's staying nice and hot. And yes, I have the Irish butter from grass-fed cows. And I probably have enough for 2, maybe 3 more cups of it. Then I'm out. So think about that. And if, when you talk about this stuff with people, life is a beautiful thing. We live on a beautiful planet. It's a beautiful world. And it's a beautiful existence if you come to grips with it and if you ignore, like I have on the screen, the reason all this typography is all over the place. Resist media and politics. Ignore the media. They're just bringing you down. What do they have to do with your eternal soul? What do they have to do with your physical senses? All right? It's game over, man. Everything you know is wrong. You don't know what you don't know. It's like I was talking on the phone with Tattoo yesterday. I may get to some of this stuff later in a little bit. Hang in there. Put it on pause. Get yourself a glass of water or something. But the idea is that, you don't know what you don't know, and wasting our time on things that are so superficial and so meaningless and that aren't going to change. Like we have no ability to change the things that the media wants you to be and is frustrating and stressing you out over. Elections don't change those things. People just have short attention spans and short memories. They can't seem to remember that the Save America campaign, well, that guy was already in office, but they basically put him, like lambasted him for 4 years. The guy in office now, he's not in charge of the country, Come on, we know what's going on, right? He's a marionette. Just like the media. I don't like to have to talk about these things all the time, It's like I've become bored with it, and I'm just about ready to stop doing this. That's why one of my previous videos was the beginning of the end, part 2. The question is, there may not be a beginning of the end, part 3. It just may be over. Because I'm tired of saying that the sponsors support the media, so the media gives them a free pass, and the politicians get their campaign contributions from the corporatocracy, the technocracy, whatever you want to call it. the World Economic Forum gang, Davos said. And so they're puppets of them. And you're a puppet of the puppet. Because you're watching it, like taking it in, and you have no idea that it's all hypocrisy for profit. You don't seem to see that. That's the part I don't get. Right? You don't get that. You know, and that's why I don't care about politics anymore. But despite the fact that I wrote 10 books, you can see my change where I was politically motivated in many of my essays basically on both sides of, the ideology, the predominant ideologies in Western civilization, at least. But now I'm not. Now it's all about love. It's about love. You see, I'm one of those people that can say the word love and it doesn't faze me. People are afraid to say that word love. You just got to love each other. Right? You know, remember the people in charge who make decisions, the war makers, the generals and the leaders, the presidents, and then these so-called people who are their minions, their spokespersons and their cabinets and their what have you. They represent a very small minority of the 8 billion people on the planet. Like I say, if Biden wants to go to war with Ukraine, then he, his son, his wife, his daughter, and his basically, second cousins, they should go out there on the front line and confront the Russians. If they think the Russians, if they don't, and they don't even understand that. I've done a video about that. This whole thing is about a little tiny swath of area where Russians happen to live in an area that Ukraine is claiming. People have it completely backwards. Russia isn't invading Ukraine. Russia is basically trying to save its own people who are living in the far eastern part of Ukraine. That line should never been drawn, forcing those people to live in some country that may become a part of NATO or the EU. They don't want to. They're Russians. They want Russian culture. They watch Russian TV. They're Russians. Okay? Just like the Crimeans were Russians all along. There was no takeover. All wars are about one thing. The military-industrial complex doing what? Trying to make a buck. Okay?
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
Eisenhower, 60 years ago, telling the American people in his farewell speech, somebody ought to tie, these people who are pushing war down and make them listen to that for 24 hours straight. Let them hear a drip, 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 by the way, too, so they can have that, too. That's just my own personal thing. This chair is horrible. It's an old chair. It's falling down. So, but, the Russians are just like us. So if the Russian leaders want to do a thing, then that's the Russian leader. See, this is the one thing that people just don't seem to grasp. There are so few. When you have in America, U.S. of A., 330 million people, think about how many of them are involved in politics and making these kinds of decisions that are affecting the rest of our lives. In the millions? You go, well, that's a lot. In the millions? Okay, what if there were 30 million? If you took the whole Washington culture and the various think tanks around the country, right? And you said there's like 30 million of them, 33 million of them. That would be 10%. That means that's 10% of the people in this country are trying to tell 90% of us what to do. But it's really not that high. It's more like 3.3 million. It's like 1% and 99%, the people always talk about. So anyway, I don't want to get into politics. So, but there is no reason for that. And why would you waste your little lifespan, your short lifespan on war? For what? Money for what? So you can buy a new cell phone? A bigger house? Have you seen this person, Dr. Beth? Check her out sometimes. When she has this other guy on there, I can't think of his name offhand. I apologize for that. But he's supposed to be releasing a paper on 2/22/22, which is basically 4 days away. And it's a paper on physics that's going to have repercussions that the information in that paper, this journal, it's going to be published in a journal apparently. The repercussions of that are going to be life-changing and make us rethink physics the way we know modern physics, and certainly Einstein physics. Well, Tesla pretty much proved that Einstein was was wrong. I was going to say half off his rocker, but there was nothing wrong with the guy Einstein. He was a nice guy. And he was certainly an intelligent man. There's no doubt about it. But he was wrong about a lot of things. Right? I've already demonstrated that the idea of space-time is just not real. There's space and there's time. But all of that stuff is relative, to use a word associated with Einstein, because when you're dealing with consciousness, time, and that's why you can't equate it and connect it to space. Time doesn't really exist in a linear form. Time exists in the now. And see, that's where Gigi Young, and again, you have to go see her latest video to understand what I'm talking about. But I think you can grasp what I'm saying, whether you do that or not. But I highly recommend you do it. She's an interesting person. And Gigi, if you're listening, I hope you are. The idea of timelessness and traveling, so-called traveling through time, is really not the way to present it. The idea is that everything is now. And so when you are part of the one, okay, from the perspective of the creator, or all that there is, the unknowable, from that perspective, everything is everything at every time, everywhere. You see? And this physical form may be a manifestation of consciousness, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't put it into words as if we can be transported to the planet Mars with this physical body, and we don't need a spacesuit to breathe or something, or that we could stand on the surface of the sun. We may be able to become a sun. We may be able to put our consciousness inside a sun and experience what it's like to be a sun, just like we're experiencing what it's like to be a human. Right? I know these are far out concepts to some people, but they're really not that far, far out of our grasp. If one human can say it, another human can conceive it. So, think about that. And so your life here is ending and will end. And yes, there may be these evil forces holding us down into this prison planet, or deceiving us at the end of our days, saying, come into the light. Hey, it's your aunt, whoever. Don't you remember me? Come on, let's go hang out with the fam. Well, what age is Aunt whomever, whatever, in that dream and, NDE experience? What about the guy that got married 3 times and loved all 3 of his wives? Right? Which one are you going to spend eternal life with? I was married twice, but I had a half dozen like really strong relationships, and in each time, and these weren't short like couple months relationships I'm talking about. I'm talking about years, multiple years. Well, I truly indeed wholeheartedly was in love with those women, to the point of losing them in a breakup or what have you was heart-wrenching and took me, a long time to get over. But now that's my ancient past now. And in some cases, if not all, those individuals, I haven't kept in touch with everybody. But in most cases, those people are remarried, have children, and went on to do things. And so when their life is over, aren't they going to want to be with their family? Why would they be with me? Because I was in love with them 20 years ago, 25 years ago. See, that's the mistake and the misleading part that I don't like when people talk about things, when they don't really get into the idea and the concept of the physical, versus the spiritual. You have to forget about your body. You use your body while you have it. We're wasting our time. That's what I'm saying. Come to grips with the end of the world. This is the end of the world. You should be there should be a paradigm shift in the way you act, what you do, everything. All right? I mean, don't you see? And those those in charge, the powers that be, they're up to it. That's what their Great Reset's all about. They're into this, like, they're clawing themselves, trying to find this singularity, trying to merge with machine. They want to save themselves and, keep themselves. They know this stuff's coming down. They know this is the end time. This is the end times, baby. Okay? They know that. Unfortunately, it's the atheist scientists that know it. This isn't something out of the Bible, right? This isn't the Bible thumper theory. Okay? This is scientism, right? This is the scientist people, right? The ones who don't believe in any kind of God, spirit, soul, or any of that stuff. And they're going like crazy trying to come up with these AI chips and all this kind of quantum computing and everything else they can so that they can merge with machine or they could beat this thing. You see, they're going to take a bridge down over in one of those northern European countries so that Jeff Bezos, he's building basically an ark because he thinks he's going to survive it. And he has a rocket ship just like, close to where he lives in his like underground cave lair, so that when the fit hits the shan, he could make it to his rocket ship and get off the planet if he has to, or he can get onto that ark that'll be parked and he can get to that. Well, what he doesn't understand is when these cataclysms comes every 12,000 years, like the last one did, and the previous ones before that you're not safe on land, sea, or air. All right? Those that survived randomly. And you can't say, well, there were caves. Yes, some people survived in caves. Some people probably survived on the side of a mountainside or something. There's no way of knowing. We don't even know where the equator is going to be. The planet might do one of these, like tilt like this and then come back. And then there's flash freezes. We found the, undigested food in those woolly mammoths I talk about all the time. there's no indigenous people in North America because 10,000, 12,000 years ago during the Younger Dryas period, it was a frozen wasteland. They talk about the Clovis people or something down south, but those people weren't even here. They would have been down in Central America, South America at the time. Some of those Mayan cities, there were like 1 million people down there. They were like refugees. They'd say, where'd all these people go? They were refugees. They went back up to, they just like, when it was all over. People don't understand. But that's human existence. So you live on a planet, you've got this Garden of Eden, you've got this life with all these senses, and you're squandering it. It's time to come to grips with the end of the world. I mean, I can't believe it. I can't believe the way people are. News. People are talking about the news. People are watching TV news. People are watching internet news. People are watching, right, their smartphone news app. They're watching YouTubers talking about, current events. And don't say, well, aren't you talking about current events? No. I'm not putting up a picture of like something that was on some TV station and saying and we're getting into some weird thing. Who cares about that? I mean, it's a tragedy. You say, well, what do you mean it? Which it? It's all a tragedy. Everything that's going on right now is a tragedy. But what are we supposed to do about it? These people are hell-bent on it. I mean, come on, let's play it one more time.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
Do you think that those people are going to suddenly see the light? Do you know how many military contractors there are? How many multi-billion-dollar, how many trillions of dollars were spent on war over the past just 20 years alone? These people haven't made any money in the past year. Their shareholders on board of directors are getting crazy, and that's why there's war. That's why there's a build-up to war right now. If you don't see that, you're a fool. The news media, the only reason that they cover any of this stuff and all this absurd, ridiculous lies and fabrications, it's content in between the commercials because the commercials pay their salaries. Politicians want to keep their jobs. They like their lifestyle. They like being somebody. Hey, look at me. I'm somebody. They like somebody treating them. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Right? They're into that ego stuff. I don't care about any of that stuff. It's like I said yesterday. I got 10 books. I didn't make any profit on them. I didn't write them for profit. Those things you see going up and down, yeah, it's like a natural disaster declared in my area. The power could go out at any given time, but I believe this show is saving itself as it goes along. So, if it cuts out, you got what you got. Yeah, it's cold outside. We've got like 30-mile-an-hour gust winds and 35 or more. So, yeah, it's scary. And it rained. As usual, it rains nights. Couldn't rain in the daytime. So I can't get a good night's sleep because I got to get up there and because otherwise I have a drip, drip, drip. Yeah, I woke up at one point and it was like, it was just insane. Where do I got it? I'll give you an example of what it was like. You hear that? The rain.
Let's get this show on the road.
All right. So, Gigi. Great name, by the way. Oh, Gigi. Oh, did you hear I had my Johnny Cash voice in the beginning there. I hurt myself today. I was looking, I have the lyrics, for that song somewhere, and I couldn't find it. And I didn't memorize it. What, this thing already lost its tune? Music, sound, one of our senses, one of the beautiful things that makes this a Garden of Eden. And we're wasting our time, And it's all going to be over soon. I mean, come to grips. It's the end of the world. Oh, no. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Hey, it's me. How you doing, man?
I'm okay, brother. I'm okay. What I'm trying to explain to people like Gigi and others and even Dr. Beth, I hope that paper is what it's promised to be, don't you? I watched your recent video too the other day, which was a bit almost on the line. Like you ought to watch Gigi Young's video if you haven't seen that, because you guys were almost kind of on similar levels, talking about it's this idea of the spirit. These people that get into the chakras and that healing the body. And I believe in that, and I've dabbled in that over the years. I've even I've projected myself, and I've done that stuff. I'm an interesting character. I've had these experiences. But I've also been stricken down with illnesses and had cancer and everything else like that. It's like that song when I was cleaning up my room to come before I come down. I'm one of those guys who always makes my bed, right? It's just a habit I have. And some reason that Doris Day song kept repeating while I spray some Lysol on my comforter because I'm not going to wash my comforter every day. And the cat gets on it, cats. So just to keep it clean, disinfected, so to speak. And so while I was doing that, I was thinking of that Doris Day song. What will be, que sera, sera. Whatever will be, right? The future's not ours to see. Que sera, sera. What a song to be haunted by, which will probably haunt me for the better part of the day. Don't you hate when that happens? It happens to everybody. But it's I don't know. I mean, it's the curse, of me.
The future. He came from the future.
I'm trying to warn you people. And the thing is, there's nothing we can do about the end of the world. We could have. You know, could you imagine that if all of the military contractors that Eisenhower was talking about 60 years ago, that instead of putting their efforts, and these guys are high tech, like anybody who knows anything about DARPA and these contractors. I mean, they've got technologies that are really, remember, I lived and worked in Washington, D.C. I lived in Capitol Hill, actually. They've got stuff, I'm not going to spill the beans, but they've got things that would blow your mind. Well, no, they wouldn't blow your mind. Your mind couldn't comprehend them. They have things that are just beyond that comprehension of the average individual. And when people are first exposed to some of these things, they're like, you know, like, what? Can I say that again one more time? Yeah, that's what they have. And you think they would turn their capabilities to block this solar outcropping? You know, go see Ben Davidson's suspiciousobservers.org catastrophe series of videos, or Doug Vogt, if you could, you know, the poor guy can't, you know, seem to read his own. He's brilliant and he's come up with all these ideas, but I can't, you know. Or just go back to Immanuel Velikovsky and read some of his stuff. Or Chan Thomas's, that book that was, you know, the CIA classified. Just read the first page of it. I mean, I've read it here in this show. I don't want to do it again. I could do it again. You know? I don't know if I still have it within this, you know, thing here. If I have it, I'll give you a taste of it. I do. So I'm going to do this. All right? Declassified in part, sanitized copy, approved for release, 2013-6-24, CIA, and then a bunch of numbers. You can find this on the CIA website. Okay, listen to this. The CIA classified this document. Now you tell me why. All right? Listen to this. All right? With a rumble so low as to be inaudible, growing, throbbing, then fuming into a thundering roar, the earthquake starts, only it's not like any earthquake in recorded history. In California, the mountains shake like ferns in a breeze. The mighty Pacific rears back and piles up into a mountain of water more than 2 miles high, then starts its race eastward. With the force of 1,000 armies, the wind attacks, ripping, shredding everything in its supersonic bombardment. The unbelievable mountain of Pacific seawater follows the wind eastward, burying Los Angeles and San Francisco as if they were but grains of sand. Nothing but nothing stops the relentless, overwhelming onslaught of wind and ocean. Across the continent, the 1,000-mile-per-hour winds wreaks havoc, or wreaks its unholy vengeance, I should say, everywhere, mercilessly, unceasingly. Every living thing is ripped into shreds while being blown across the countryside, and the earthquake leaves no place untouched. In many places, the Earth's molten sublayer breaks through and spreads a sea of white-hot liquid fire to add to the Holocaust. Within 3 hours, the fantastic wall of water moves across the continent, burying the wind-ravaged land under 2 miles of seething water coast to coast. In a fraction of a day, all vestiges of civilization are gone, and the great cities Los Angeles, San Francisco, Chicago, Dallas, New York are nothing but legends. Barely a stone is left where millions walked just a few hours before. A few lucky ones who managed to find shelter from the screaming wind on the lee side of Pikes Peak watch the sea of molten fire break through the quaking valleys below. The raging waters follow, piling higher and higher, steaming over the molten earth, fire, and rising, etc., etc. Declassified in part, sanitized copy approved for release, 2013, CIA. Why would the CIA classify that in the 60s? That's the story. All right? You got to come to grips with it. Do you know why the Apollo mission was called Apollo? Apollo was a sun god. Why would you call a lunar mission Apollo? Because they wanted to go to the moon to see if, to prove this theory. Because they found these beads, these glass beads, this sign of this cataclysm, and they indeed did find them on the moon. And you know those Mars rovers? They found them on Mars. This is a solar event, and it affects all of the planets. And by the way, this goes to Dark Journalist and Gigi too. This idea of these planets, Earth, and then, the eighth sphere below the Earth, and then as you got your Venus and stuff, and Vulcan out here. What's this Vulcan nonsense? But you got Saturn. What you don't understand is you need to get into the Thunderbolts project. We were a Saturnian system. That's what all those strange, you get into iconography. That's what all those strange stars are that you see on these old, like, Sumerian tablets and things like that. I don't know if I still have any of those up. Because I've been cleaning out some of this stuff. I'm just going to look briefly. I don't want to waste your time. I know it looks weird like I'm staring into space, but I'm actually looking to see if I still have that Sumerian thing, and I don't think I do. Nah, I don't know. I got rid of it. But the point of the matter is, what I'm trying to get at here is this was a Saturnian system. And so you had the Earth, Mars, Saturn, and then Venus caused the problems, but Venus was involved in our system. And then there was this intervention with the solar system, Sol, who now our star. See, Saturn used to be our star, our sun. The gas giants are just stars, right? And so Saturn, it wasn't like Jupiter's Saturn. It was Saturn, right? Mars, you see, it went that way. And if you look back at all these, I can't. Go to the Thunderbolt Project and look through some of that stuff. Learn your own history. All right? It's not about uncovering stuff in Globeki Tepe. Okay? And what I was saying is if these military contractors would have spent the last 60 years, maybe they would have been able to figure out a way to deflect this solar outburst. See, because our magnetic field is weakening so much, which is in effect is a force field on this planet. Did you ever take two magnets opposing poles and try to put them together and they like push apart? Okay? That's a force field. That's a magnetic field. And it's the same thing that puts them together. You can create anti-gravity in a sense by putting a very strong magnet underneath, a piece of wood or a table, tape it to there, and put another heavy magnet with the opposite polarity on top, and that'll float there Want to do a magic trick for your friends? And you can float things and say, see, I have anti-gravity. And they'd be like, what, till they finally look under the table. Well, we should have been spending our time trying to figure out a way to deflect this solar outburst that's about to happen any day now. And believe me, it's any day now. Doug Vogt thinks it's going to be it's not going to happen until 2046. But, you know, he's into this like biblical type of thing. He calls his thing the Diehold Foundation. He believes that, you know, God is a computer, more or less, kind of. Well, or that there's a computer somewhere in between. The Diehold. And the Diehold gave this information to like Moses or somebody. You got to watch his stuff if you ever have the time. There's so much we do not know about reality, history, what went before us, that it's a crime that we waste. Here's what I was trying to say. In other words, we put kids in school. Forget about college. College is a waste of time. But we put most kids through 12 years of school. But say it was even 8. But it's more than that. Because even if they don't go to high school, they're in preschool and kindergarten and all this other stuff. So either way, you know, it's 10, 12 years, right? And when they come out of there, what do they know? Some things that they've memorized. I know the times tables. What's 8 times 8? I'll tell you about it. I have no idea what 8 times 8 is. I never memorized my times tables. But, you know, 99% of the people will tell you what 8 times 8 is. You know, it's like I've got a mental block to things like that. I don't know what 8 times 8 is. What do you guys think? Isn't that ridiculous?
Really funny. Really funny.
Anyway, why don't they teach us, you know, if you're interested in chakras and all this stuff and healing and all that, why don't they teach us how to live in the world, experience these bodies and utilize it? Instead, what they're doing is conditioning and programming and indoctrinating us so that we can't use our natural abilities. Maybe we have kinetic energy control. Maybe we're all clairvoyants, right? All those things. You see, it's all wrong. It's all wrong. This whole carnation, this whole 12,000 years was a waste of time. This might have been the most, I mean, I have no idea. I mean, there probably were other eras, epochs, whatever you want to call them. What a waste of time. All that went on over the past 12,000 years, it seems, at least 6,000 that we kind of really know about, excuse me, is like conquest, war, and empire. And people building, and then this mad dash in the last couple 100 years with technology. And this accumulation of materialistic things. It's insane. It's literally, it's insane. I mean, I don't know how else to say it.
This is insane.
And so we blew it. We totally, absolutely blew it. It's too late now, you know? I mean, even if we just like everyone stopped and came to their senses today, right? And every effort, you know, was turned to the idea of like, we've got to deal with this upcoming cataclysm, right? We've got to stop all the wars, stop all the hate, stop all this, stop all that, you know, realize our full potential, right? It's not enough time. No. It could happen tomorrow, basically, is where we're at right now. Unfortunately, it's really sad. It's pathetic when you think about it, you know? I really, You know, you have to feel sorry for people. You know, the younger people, you know, like children born in this time, like, you know, people born within the past couple of years or so, born into this madness, this ridiculousness, this craziness, you know, the insanity.
This is a nightmare. Must be a nightmare.
But that Doris Day tune is fading, and suddenly I'm caught with from that song from that movie. Oh, Gigi. Do you know that movie? What's the name of the guy singing that? I can't think of his name. It'll come to me maybe. Well, as I've been saying in my shows lately, positive thinking, positivity, all right? You know, save your own eternal soul. That's what you got to do. And you just have to do the best you can. Service to others instead of service to self. You know, you want to get off of this ride, all right? Because, you know, if you come back, you say, well, yeah, but the next time I'll do it better. Well, you don't know that. You get a mind wipe, all right? And so you're born as some Hindu boy in India in some poor farmer village where the farmers are committing suicide because of, you know, the extreme conditions they're living under. And then some child's living on the street as a beggar. That's what you want to incarnate as? And you're going to do better? Nah. You just want to get off of this planet. Yeah. And the thing about it is, and you can get off of this planet, and this is why I was talking about this, like I say, about this video, that the impression I got from it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Gigi, but the idea is if the human body is a part of this, because it is not. It's your spirit, your soul, your consciousness, your mind. That is you. And you experience the world through that, and that is, you know, a part of this thing. Man, there's a lot of activity on camera, too, up there. So I've come to grips with the end of the world. By the way, I took that picture for that thing literally 2 minutes before I went on the air. And then I put my glasses on and started singing, I hurt myself today. Yeah. Just a little effect, you know, pixelated. It's interesting, though. Who are we? What are we? Was the theme yesterday. Or the day before. What is a day? What is time? Right? So I don't know. So to continue with this idea, so people have been indoctrinated over the years. They're propagandized and indoctrinated and conditioned. And we wasted 12,000 years. And here we are again. And it's like that line I've said, rinse, repeat, you know, rinse, wash, repeat, or wash, rinse, repeat, whatever the heck it is. And that's what it is. You know, I had a video of that, or a photo of that somewhere. See if I could find that one. It was called Laundry. Laundry Woman. Yeah, Laundry Girl. That was from my Body Electric show. Right? Rinse, wash, or wash, rinse, repeat. Wash, rinse, repeat. Pretty crazy, isn't it? That's what our lives are like. And with the circular concept there too, the idea, the planet, the sphere. And it is an electric universe, by the way, and electricity is the key. Energy, light, energy. That's why everyone should check out the electric universe theory and the Thunderbolts project to learn more about that. But, it's all too late. You've got to come to grips with the end of the world. And at this time, save your eternal soul. That's all I'm trying to tell you. I know I sound like some guy out on a street corner you see in some whacked out movie. The world is going to end, right? I know. But it's like, they were all right. Basically, time's relative. Any movie that's been made in the past 60 years, well, the guy was right. He just was 60 years a little bit too early. But he was sounding the alarm, that goofball on the street corner with the cardboard sign. A lot better than these freaks putting up some other thing, holding up some other sign. The governments are turning into authoritarian states, totalitarian states. Canada is a dictatorship now. We've lost our life expectancies, dropped by a couple of years. And we got people talking about, chakras or something, and the human body going through a Stargate, and I don't know. Man, you can't mislead people into that kind of thought, that direction. There are things that are just simply unknowable. No, you don't know. And I don't know. See, I don't know either. So I'm not going to say, because I don't have the answers. It's the questions that are more important than the answers at this point. It's the idea of accepting that there is the unknowable. Who knows? You don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. As I was talking before about these books, I make these books just to express myself and tell my story and show how my story's changed, that I've changed. And I make these shirts because not to make money, but to help you communicate in a non-confrontative way with other people. I do these videos, it's the same thing. The songs are the same way. I don't make any money on those songs. They tell the story. Think about it. Think about it. Think about what you're doing. What you're doing with your last days, your final days. And the interesting thing about this is that, when this cataclysm occurs, like the one I read earlier, the earth is, doesn't recover like the next day the sun comes out and stuff. We could be talking centuries. We could be talking a millennia. Like right now we're in an interglacial period. So this is, so what's happening right now is utter madness. And that's why so I'm making this show. Basically because I saw somebody's video. Because I wasn't really going to do this. It was hard for me to really get out of bed. You can see if you look at camera 2 up there that the light is starting to, the buildings in the background are starting to light up. And you can still see there's that snowpack over there on the sidewalk. Because it's still cold outside, even though it got up into near 60 yesterday during the height of that storm. But it's 27 and there's wind advisories like right up through 8 a.m. here. Gusts of wind near tropical storm intensity. That's due to the magnetic field. People don't understand that. And they won't tell you that. Just like, what was the CIA basically like? What the heck were they classifying, a document about the end of the world for 50 years or however long they classified that? Like, what? I mean, there's something going on. I mean, it doesn't matter. You could look at me like I'm crazy and this is all woo-woo stuff and blah, blah, blah. But when you take everything in the aggregate, okay? When you take all the ancient text, when you take all the stories, all these sites around the world, right? All these scrolls, and whether they're religious texts, biblical stories, or just tales from various ancient cultures that have survived through the ages, right? When you take all that stuff and you compare it to the knowledge of what's going on today, even the stuff that's in computers and stored in these salt mines by the NSA, well, all the modern stuff is drivel, repetitive nonsense. Spying on people, right? War games, nonsense, demographic profiles, right? But all this other knowledge that's like so, countless volumes, countless volumes. They all seem to be pointing to the same thing, to what I'm talking about. So how do we get to this point where suddenly these school boards, teachers' unions, politicians and bureaucrats in Washington and other state capitals, when I mean state as in countries, how does suddenly this small group of people seize power, through Davos and the World Economic Forum and think they know better? Or some guys who have a .com. What is Google? Google's basically a .com that has a dirty deal with DARPA. Say that 3 times fast. What's Amazon? Amazon is just a .com that has a dirty deal with the CIA. They host the CIA and their AWS servers, and they bought the Washington Post for influence and for prestige in their minds. Right? They're just .com companies. These people are just people. Who's Joe Biden? He was a nobody politician. Well, who's Donald Trump for that matter? He was basically a real estate guy. Leveraged hotels and property. People think, oh, he's never a billionaire. He was a billionaire in net worth on paper. He leveraged buildings. His net worth was appeared that way. The guy probably couldn't raise, more than $10 million in cash or something. Maybe more. I don't know. These people are just people, man. There's camera 2 has come to light. I knew that was going to happen. This is one of those late shows which is actually a morning show. My porch. And that's the hardware store across the street. You can't really see it too well, but on top of their sign, they have like this purple bathtub. It's like a landmark. It's a great place to live, and it's easy if I had to tell somebody how to find it. Hey, I live like kind of catty corner across from the purple bathtub. You know. Something that the Google vehicle doesn't really catch when it drives by because it's a little bit too high for their camera. They don't look up. So that's about all I have to really say today, I think. That just remember, yesterday's show. Well, was yesterday the duality of man, or was that the show before? I think it might have. I can't remember. I think it was the day before, I think. Because I think I posted that one on 3Speak, which I don't know, something wacky about that site. I was trying to get on there to be a podcast. But now I've lost interest in the entire thing. But anyway, you could also find these things on Rumble if you're interested. I mean, obviously my shows are going to exist for posterity until, the whole House of Cards collapses. The funny thing about people who live by apps and their smartphones and the internet and all this stuff is that when the power grid goes down, which it will inevitably, whether or not any of the stuff I'm talking about happens, all right, the power grid's in total disrepair. So it's unrepairable, and it would take 100 years. So we're inevitably going to have a power down situation. The grid's going to fail sometime in the coming years. Excuse me. And in short term, it's not going to be like years and years and years. The problem is you see these maniacs, these smash and grabbers and stuff. People don't know how to cook. They don't know how to live. They don't know what to do. And they're all tied into this electric world, right? Powered. Like nobody buys my great solar stuff, right? Which I'll show you at the end of the show. Hang in there. It's like, forget about the solar power. At least get a power backup. All right? But the point is, all of this ends. Now, when this ends for me, I don't really care all that much. Because I'm just going to go back here in my backyard, and I've got food to grow and a place to hang out and to live. Place to hang out till the end of the world. And if the world doesn't end, well, I'm fine. And I've got a music collection, and I got a couple little solar panels, right? And I've got a music collection of thousands and thousands of songs and stuff. A library of books to read and all kinds of stuff. So I don't care. But you should care. Because if you're not prepared for the inevitable, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Right? What are you going to do? What are those people, what are your neighbors going to do who order like takeout food all the time? When their ATM card doesn't work and the takeout food place is closed. And they don't have a microwave oven that works either. What are they going to do? What are 330 million people in the U.S. going to do? What are 8 billion people on the planet going to do? Well, people in other parts of the country or other parts of the world, they're going to have fossil fuels and things like that. They'll probably survive. France is like nuclear powered. They don't have a problem. Get a mug. This coffee is pretty good. I'm telling you, that idea of taking just a little piece of butter, but it's got to be Irish butter from grass-fed cows. Just a little bit. Not even a teaspoon, just the tip of a teaspoon. Put it in the middle of your coffee maker. And blammo, it just makes it's 100% Colombian coffee. Big can. I got to buy a new one like next week. I'm running low. But I've got some instant Folgers just in case to get me through. I always liked Folgers. But anyway, you've got to you got to eliminate the negative and focus on the positive, and there's some song like that. But yeah, positive thinking and, focus on your eternal soul, your consciousness and stuff like that. And you can't, this body is just a temporary shell that you happen to occupy. Right? I mean, you do see that. I mean, there is a concept where we could be, there's some of these Eastern religions, where life, we're a dream within a dream, within a dream. And so and if you've ever had a lucid dream, in a very lucid dream, you can sometimes really feel as if you're there. And I mean, even feel. I wrote a song called Happy Nightmares once, which is available. You can listen to it on, Apple Music, Spotify, You could ask your Echo Dot to play it, or you could listen to it, watch the video. There might be a video on YouTube, but I know the song's there. I have those songs. If you look under Tony Caravan's Beat Poetry Tracks. Remember, this is my ROCKFLUX channel. You see there's ROCKFLUX is written under each one of those. But you want Tony Caravan's Beat Poetry Tracks to find it. And the song is, let's see if, I can't scroll down on that. That's just a screen capture. But it's Happy Nightmares. And that idea was that, I was having this nightmare. It's just a brief thing. It's a live version of it. I actually have it here. I don't know if it's even at a point where I would get a copyright hit. Let's see here.
I originally wrote this song when I broke up with my college girlfriend. And after that, some time after, I would have these dreams and that we were still together, making love or whatever. And then I'd wake up and realize, well, it was just a dream. Then many years later, I was in another relationship and a similar thing happened to me. And actually, it just happened to me the other night. And so here it is. It's called Happy Nightmares. I hope you like it. Don't want to sleep. Why must I keep these hours so late?
Anyway, you got to listen to the rest of it. I just can't relate. It's beat poetry, yes. It's spoken word, kind of, most of my songs. Anyway, the intro kind of tells what it's about. So, yeah, maybe it's a dream within a dream, and maybe you can sense things. And maybe the whole thing, I don't go for the simulation theory, that idea, or the Matrix idea, right? Even though they sent me, because I'm such an influencer, look at. They sent me a Matrix cap to wear on my show. But I figure it's a game over day. So, who knows? maybe 5 senses are nothing. What if we have 16 senses, in reality? So you come here to experience this little ride, right? What if this is like an amusement park? That's my other song, 2 hours. What if that's the case? And if that's the case, then, 16 senses might be like really what it's all about. But this body, don't get obsessed with this body and chakras and all that kind of stuff. You can take control of it and you can focus, right? I always you can take your hands and like in your third eye, and you notice that pyramid shape that seems to ultimately form there. And you can concentrate and meditate and try your best to make something happen and heal yourself or heal others or do something positive. But there's no guarantee that's going to work, because you have to understand that you live within a universe and you live among all sorts of other influences and molecular atomic structures and things that are going on, so that you are not God, right? But you can try, and if it's in the cards, so to speak, or if it's in, if it's possible within the workings of this universe, this cosmos, then it can happen. And I guess that's the same for these people who are into the chakras and stuff like that. But the point of the matter is, there are no guarantees. And this idea of holding on to the physicality is that we blew that, our life expectancy has been reduced, like I said, by 2 years just in the past couple of years. So forget about living to be 685, right? Let alone 120, which I was talking about the other day. We could easily live to be 120. Our bodies are made to live at least that long. People have lived 160. There's documented cases of this kind of stuff. But there's a lot of there's millions of centenarians. So 100 years at least. But like right now, the life expectancy just dropped like by 2 years. Our life expectancy is it's getting to be into the low 70s and stuff. It's ridiculous. If this keeps up, those are averages and stuff. But like I say, everything is possible, but also it's only possible as long as everything else, is in sync with it. You see? In other words, I may wish a thing to happen. I may meditate. I may focus on something, but, there are all sorts of other forces constantly, at play in this materialistic world, in this realm, density, or whatever you want to call that we're existing in right now. And so no one can claim to have total control over something. You are not God, right? You see? You are not the creator. You are not, the all-power omnipotent. And sometimes people present these things as if you can take these various steps and do these things. And sometimes these things will work, but not 100% of the time. And maybe not even 51% of the time. Or maybe 51%, but not 49%. So the idea is that it's still, while you exist here and now, it could be a dream within a dream. It's possible. But the consciousness is what it's all about. And that's what survives, hopefully. And like I say, that's even unknowable. Who knows? We do not know. We do not know. I do not know. We cannot know. We can read what has been written, and we can hope. We can, reason based upon the ancient writings and texts that certain things are true and are the way they are. But we don't know. And certainly we've been indoctrinated, conditioned, and propagandized for so many years that, everything you know is wrong, the average person. And you don't know what you don't know. So I am going to say good morning. Good morning. And, go to rockflux.com. That's my website. I keep telling you this every day. I'm going to turn that into like a more in-depth website. Right now, it's just like kind of a place where I put just raw links in a rather just slipshod way, but it gives you a link to my books, to my wear, and like to great solar stuff, which basically, like I say, isn't solar. You could get power backup and some other stuff there. And in these times, we need that stuff, right? Like I say, maybe the sun isn't going to, release its outer shell, and maybe we'll miss this 12,000 year cycle. Who knows? But what we're not going to miss is the fact that this infrastructure's fallen down, and there is no way you could put trillions and trillions of dollars into it, and you're not going to fix it in time. Look, this is it, man. This is it. Anyway, maybe I'll be here tomorrow. Maybe I won't. Take care. Good luck. And remember, the soul, the spirit, the mind is different than the body. They're two separate things.